YouTube, this is RL coming to you again from my channel, and here it is, a new review of a retro classic game. I've been saying it for a while on my channel that I'm going to do movie reviews, and here it is. I will be doing a movie review of one of my favorite movies of all time, Back to the Future, the first one. I'm not going to be reviewing all the Back to the Futures. Maybe I will, who knows, but the first one's my favorite, so I'm going to be doing that one. Alright, so the format's already here. I did a review a while back. I don't know if you remember, I reviewed Wonder Woman 1984, but this is going to be a retro review, because my channel is a retro channel with pizza and retro, and I'm going to be doing a lot of different types of content, mostly video game related, but movies. I love movies as well, so I'm going to be picking some classic movies from my childhood and great movies like Back to the Future. So let's get started. So I will be reviewing these movies on 6 categories: visuals, music, acting, story, entertainment, and replay value. So let's get started with Back to the Future, the classic movie from 1985, the best time travel movie of all time in my opinion. And so we already know where this is going to go, the reviews. Hopefully there's some drama still, because you know, I don't love everything. I'm not going to give it retro loves down the board, or maybe I will. Alright, so let's get started with visuals first. This movie is a beautiful looking movie. It was made in the 1980s, the mid 1980s, but you know what? This movie could probably fool some people to think that this movie was made today, because it didn't age at all. This movie is just a treat for the eyes, the visual treat of the 1950s and 1980s. There's a stark contrast in the look of the town, and everything in this movie is authentic looking. It's really well done. The set designs, everything with this movie looks unbelievable. The buildings, the way it aged over time, and just the look of the characters and the costumes, and everything about this movie looks awesome. It's got some pretty decent special effects, but there's not really that much needed in this movie, because it's really just, you know, the fire effects when the DeLorean goes 88 miles an hour and the lightning effects. So it's not a heavy visual movie. There's not any, obviously, CGI, because this is before CGI, so it's all practical effects, but nothing looks dated. There's nothing about this movie that you look at and you say, this is a movie from the 80s in style and presentation, but of course it's a 1980s time capsule of a movie, but visually it's beautiful to look at, and I'm going to give the visuals a retro love for visuals. So let's move on to music. What can I say about the music? It's just gonna be a love fest, I guess. Music is amazing. Huey Lewis and the News, the classic theme of Back to the Future. I could listen to that on my iPod or iPhone or whatever I listen to music. I love that song, Huey Lewis, The Power of Love. There's so many other tracks I forget the names of, but there's just a beautiful amount of music. It's iconic. You listen to it, you think Back to the Future. I can't imagine Back to the Future without Huey Lewis and the News. They just go hand in hand. It's a classic soundtrack, unbelievable, and it gets you motivated to watch, and you just want to watch this movie just for the music alone. Awesome music, awesome. There's not much more I can say, because it's awesome. I'm going to give the music for Back to the Future a retro double love. It's just so good. I just can't say I love it. I think the music is just as good or better than the visuals, and the visuals are awesome. So moving on to the acting, really solid. You believe all the characters, from Biff, Marty, the mother. I love how they incorporate the acting of these characters from the different eras, and how the mom and Lorraine, and the father McFly, the older McFly, he's such a dork. The actors did an amazing job, and you really believe that they're older versions of themselves. They're not just some actor playing the character through that time periods the same as they were when they were in their 20s, as they were in their 50s or 40s or whatever age they were, and the older, this is what, 30 years, so obviously they were 30 years different. So you really believe these characters, and they sold the aging process of the way they acted, and it's just so brilliant. So, and obviously the visuals help, makeup and all that, to make them look older, but they still had to embody those characters and change them and make them different, not just the same character 30 years earlier, 30 years later. So they really did an amazing job. The acting's awesome. I love Michael J. Fox in this movie. It's one of his best movies movies. He's well known for many movies that came out in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and of course he was on TV, Family Ties. There's so many great shows that he was in, but that's my favorite. He was just unbelievable. I don't think anyone else could have done it. Obviously, there was huge news about casting. They fired Eric Stoltz, and he basically filmed 90% of the movie, and they had to redo the whole movie and put in Michael J. Fox, because originally he was the one they wanted for this movie, so luckily they were able to get him. But of course, he's amazing. Michael J. Fox he knocked it out of the park. All the acting is unbelievable. The guy who played Biff, I don't know all their names, all the acting right down the board. Excellent performances. You could say they were a little bit over the top, maybe Biff, but he really believed that he was a douchebag. You really believed that Biff was an asshole. Of course, later on in the second movie and the third movie became more psychopathic, and the third movie, well, it wasn't him, it was his ancestor. The acting is solid. Of course, you have to mention Christopher Lloyd. He was brilliant in this movie. You really believe that this guy is this mad scientist that would actually be able to invent a time machine out of a DeLorean, not a fridge. Originally it was going to be a fridge, and they said, well, we can't do that because kids are going to lock themselves in fridges, which makes sense. I think it was a much better choice to have a DeLorean. Of course, the time machine has to be mobile, and of course the iconic vehicle. Obviously this vehicle's not an actor, but if it was, it'd be amazing because it is incredible. I can't imagine a time machine in any other vehicle than the DeLorean. It is so iconic and so classic. I even had to talk about the acting of this vehicle. That's how iconic it is. Alright, so I gotta grade this acting. I'm going to give the acting in this movie a retro love for acting. I would have gone double love, but let's face it, it's a science fiction movie. It's not Oscar worthy acting, but it gets the job done amazingly. I'm not trying to insult the acting. I just feel it's a retro love. So moving on to the story, what can I say about this script and the story? It's an amazing, tight story, so well crafted. There is no scene that is not necessary to this movie. It is so well paced, so well written. Everything in this movie fits. There's no scene, as I say, there's not one scene in this movie that you say, this shouldn't be here. This doesn't make it any better. This scene slows it down. Every scene, the writing is tight. It is so well written. The story is so well crafted. The story of a teenager who has to go back in time, well, goes back in time, not have to. He just happens to go back in time because he was running away from the Libyans who killed Doc Brown. So he just happens to go into the past. But it's a great story where he gets to meet his parents, see the town from a different perspective from the 1950s. It's interesting as a coming of age and a fish out of water kind of story where Michael J. Fox, Marty, is completely flabbergasted that he's even in 1955. It takes him a long time to realize that the school didn't get cleaner, it just got less dirty from the past. So, unbelievable story. It's so well crafted. It is the best time travel movie of all time, in my opinion. So, story gets a retro double love for story. So, moving on to the entertainment value, it's a very entertaining movie. It just touches all the notes. Everything about this movie, from the characters, from the set, from the car, from just the idea of going back in time. Time travel movies are just so awesome. I love time travel movies. There's not enough time travel movies out there. There should be more time travel movies. I wish there were time travel video games, to be honest, to go back in time and explore. There is one actually that I remember on the PS2, Shadow of Destiny, which is one of my favorite time travel video games. Probably the only time travel video game that I ever played. I can't think of any others. That's a classic game. Really awesome. But I'm not talking about that game. I'm talking about the entertainment in Back to the Future. It is highly entertaining. There's so many great action sequences. Everything in this movie is entertaining. I love Doc Brown. I love the scenes where Marty has to convince Doc Brown that he really is from the future. And Doc Brown asks, who's the President of the United States in 1985? Ronald Reagan. The actor? That's hilarious. Oh my goodness, that was so funny. The movie doesn't drag. The movie doesn't feel dated in any way. I've watched many movies from that era, and there are a lot of movies that from the 80s, pacing felt like it came out of the 70s or the 60s because they had that old style of filmmaking, and this movie kind of felt like a new style of filmmaking. Robert Zemeckis did an amazing job. Steven Spielberg produced it. There's so many great moments in this movie. Even the part where Marty punches Biff and he's going on a skateboard. They're chasing him down the road. Biff drives into the manure truck. Now, obviously, there's going to be spoilers, but hey, if you haven't seen this movie by now, you're never going to see it. So, spoilers are in this review, of course. So, entertainment is out of this world. I'm going to give the entertainment a retro double love for entertainment. So, moving on to the last category, replay value. Replay value, it is very tons of replay on this movie. When I was a kid, I watched it over and over again. I could literally watch this movie back to back to back. I've seen it maybe 1,000 times. I lost track. It's a movie that I could watch over and over again. It doesn't get boring. And I can't say that from a lot of movies. There are a lot of movies that are entertaining. There are a lot of movies that I love, but I wouldn't rewatch it right away or want to rewatch it. Some movies you love and you say it's a great movie, but I don't want to see it again. This movie, it's the opposite of that. I want to watch it over and over again and again and again because it is a classic. And of course, replay value gets a retro double love. It is an incredible experience. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. So this is my review of Back to the Future. Tell me what you think about this movie. Let me know one of your moments that you love the most. What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite character? What other moments that you enjoyed? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know what other movies you want me to review, because I'm going to be reviewing a ton of retro movies and maybe some movies that are video game related as well. Alright, so that's all for now, guys. I hope you liked my review on Back to the Future, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget about my loot box. Once I get to 100 subs, there is a loot box going to be activated. Don't miss out because there's some awesome stuff in there. Alright, and in that note, I'm going to have more retro content in the weeks, months, and years to come. Bye for now.